Welcome back to Pragmagilism, the podcast where we cut through the rigid frameworks and focus on what actually works. I'm Ross, and today we're taking on a big one in the Bourbon Basement Bar Studios, the Agile Manifesto. Now, Agile started as a revolutionary way for teams to move faster, adapt, and deliver real outcomes. But here's the thing. Over time, the Agile Manifesto has become a thing to reference, sometimes more about invoking its values than actually solving problems. So today we're asking, is the manifesto still useful or has it become dogma? The manifesto was born in 2001 to solve specific problems in software development, but it's still being referenced today across industries and not always with clear intent. Like some of the return to office policies we discussed in episode 1, we're here to figure out when referencing the Agile Manifesto is pragmatic and when it's just dogmatic. Because here's the truth. Principles aren't inherently good or bad. It's how you apply them that makes the difference. Let's start at the beginning. The Agile Manifesto was born in 2001 when 17 amazing software developers got together in Snowbird, Utah. Frustrated with the heavyweight bureaucratic project management processes, they came up with the Agile Manifesto. The Agile Manifesto has 4 core values: individuals and interactions over processes and tools, working software over comprehensive documentation, customer collaboration over contract negotiation, and responding to change over following a plan. It's key to note that the manifesto always says, while there is value on items on the right, we value the items on the left more. It was a big deal because back in the 90s and early 2000s, software development was dominated by rigid, waterfall-style project management. Projects were often delayed, over budget, or didn't deliver on what users actually needed. A lot of this was due to the whole scope of the project being defined up front, and by the time the project was delivered, the users used it for a few months and figured out they needed something different. Agile Manifesto offered a radically different approach, focusing on flexibility, collaboration, and continuous improvement. Here's the thing. The manifesto is just 68 words long. It's not a framework or a rule book. It's a set of guiding principles. That means its strength is also its weakness, because how you apply it is everything. Applying the manifesto pragmatically can still be a powerful tool when it's used pragmatically to solve real problems. Let's break that down. Prioritizing individuals and interactions over processes and tools. Applying it pragmatically means focusing on building teams that communicate well and collaborate effectively. An example is if a team uses Slack or Teams, the tool doesn't drive the work. The good communication inside of the tool drives the work. It's not a workflow, it's not a check-in process, it's a collaboration tool. It's not about the tools you use, though. It's about how people work together that's really important. Focus on delivering working software over comprehensive documentation. The pragmatic application is don't skip the documentation, but don't let it delay delivering value to the user. Example is writing clear, concise release notes that enables the user to use the product effectively without months of specs, months of user guides, all these things. Documentation should support the delivery, not prevent it. It's also important if you build documentation into your planning cycle. Emphasize customer collaboration over contract negotiation. A pragmatic application of this concept is to make sure that when customers provide feedback, it's central to that process and it can help change the plan. If the customers get something in their hands and want something different, you're going to shift your plan. A product team that regularly reviews customer feedback to refine its roadmap rather than sticking rigidly to outdated requirements is going to deliver a product that provides more value to its customers and hopefully benefits that business. Customers don't care about the contract. They care about the product. This is especially true when using third-party vendors. You have a contract with a third-party vendor. You might not want to put scope in that contract. You might want to do time and teams, and you can work with scope on them as things arise. Build them in as part of your team as opposed to just outsourcing the development of a product. Responding to change over following a plan. Build plans that are flexible and can evolve as conditions change. A team adjusts sprint goals mid-cycle because user data reveals an urgent need. Is that a huge deal? I don't think so. What I think is a huge deal is when you don't allow your teams to adjust and work within the sprint cycle just because you're trying to make your plan be accurate. An example of these things altogether, really the working with the customer, responding to change. At a large company, I worked to build out rolling wave planning. This approach is a way of applying responding to change over following a plan while still having a plan and being pragmatic about it. Leaders focused on the right time horizons instead of hyper-focusing on what the delivery teams were doing day to day. We worked with scaled teams to think through what was coming next while allowing the delivery teams to focus on what's right now. By maintaining this balance, it becomes easier to respond to change without disrupting everything in the process. Leaders have clarity about future priorities, and the teams have the space to deliver effectively in the moment. This approach showed me that responding to change doesn't mean abandoning plans. It means being intentional about where and when you focus on what things, and really keeping that customer value and insights coming in and allowing that to change your direction, not necessarily your overarching plan. When referencing the Agile Manifesto becomes dogmatic, it's when it's a great tool, but like anything else, a tool can be misused. Here's why calling back the manifesto can go wrong. Using the manifesto as a shield against accountability. Teams justify not delivering what they're supposed to deliver by saying that we're agile and we respond to change. A team keeps pivoting but never completes anything. Getting your software into the working hands is another principle of the manifesto. So just because you want to respond to change shouldn't preclude you from getting things into your customers' hands. When you invoke the manifesto without purpose, leaders will reference the manifesto to sound enlightened or agile or know what the scrums are like, but they don't tie it to actual team goals. If a manager insists on collaboration over contracts, but ignores the team's need for clear agreements, they're really missing the mark on how to deliver effective planning, effective vision to the team. I always think about the 3 C's here: card, communication, confirmation. It's not a contract. It is collaboration, but it gets everybody to agree to what we're doing, when we're doing it, and what is in the request. Finally, you can misinterpret the manifesto as an excuse for chaos. Some teams think responding to change means having no plan at all, abandoning basic planning because Agile says we don't need plans. We just need to get the scrums done. This is one of the things that I think leaders and teams use as a way to force teams to deliver quantity over value. I've seen some of these things happen firsthand. One time when working with a small group of teams, engineering managers would bypass the agreed upon backlog process by inserting specific tech-centric work directly into the sprint backlog. What was their justification? Of course, we're just responding to change, but in reality, this caused significant disruption. Sprint goals were derailed, release timelines slipped, and product roadmap deliverables suffered. But what's the real problem here, though? The real problem is trust. Product managers who are responsible for maintaining that roadmap and backlog and delivering maybe against some due dates felt undermined. The delivery team grew frustrated because their focus kept shifting. What should have been a productive collaboration turned into friction, all because the principle of responding to change was misapplied to somebody's own gain to get their own pet projects and work done. This experience taught me an important lesson, that responding to change isn't a free pass to just abandon structure or undermine team trust. Without clear intent, referencing the manifesto can create more problems than it solves. Referencing the manifesto without purpose is like quoting a proverb without understanding it. It sounds really cool, but it doesn't help anyone. The bottom line is that the manifesto in and of itself isn't dogma. It's a set of guiding principles to help you make pragmatic decisions. You should ask yourself these 3 questions before invoking the manifesto. Why are we referencing the specific principle I'm bringing up? How will we apply it to help us deliver outcomes or improve our teamwork? Are we focusing on principles or are we just saying cool buzzwords? The Agile Manifesto works when you apply it with intent, not when you treat it as scripture. The Agile Manifesto is still a powerful tool for teams when applied pragmatically. Problems arise when teams or leaders reference it without purpose or misinterpret its principles. Focus on solving real problems, delivering those outcomes, and staying flexible. What's your take on the Agile Manifesto? Have you seen it applied well, or have you seen it misused? Share your experiences with us. Hit us up on social media or send us an email. The next time, we're asking a bold question that lots of folks have been asking on social media. Is Agile dead? With so many teams struggling to make Agile work and others abandoning it entirely, we'll explore if Agile is still alive and kicking, or if it's time to move on to something new. Tune in as we continue challenging dogma with pragmatism. Thanks for listening to Pragmagilism. Remember, folks, tools not rules, outcomes not traditions. Be pragmatic, not dogmatic. See you next time.